Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I am mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too. Continuing with our honoring BKS Iyengar and what light on life he brought to me. Um, one of the things I loved about him as an acharya, which means a pundit, a PhD, but not just an armchair quarterback, he was also a practitioner. So he knows where the books are padded. And through his own personal experience, he understood when to follow what the book said, and if it didn't tally with what the book said, he threw the books away and went ahead himself. Very, very few people have both the courage and the insight to be able to do that. So one of the things that he challenged the Western students with was that we all talk about mind, body being one, and yet he said, okay, but if your body is trapped, your mind is trapped. So if you say you're so free because you're from the West and you have all these different opportunities that people in third world countries don't have, well, show me. Get up on the stage and do with your body as free as your mind is. But of course, nobody can do that because freedom in the mind is a far cry. So I love the idea that he challenged you to say your body has to be open to help show how open the mind can be. Now, of course, we don't want to make such a one-to-one reductionistic statement as if people who are not open in the body can't have good intellectual capacities or emotional depth and stuff like that. But remember, at the same time, just being an asana jock, you see athletes in all different fields all the time. They're no morally superior to anybody else. So just because they're a virtuoso with the body, it doesn't mean they've developed themselves in the yogic sense. So, he challenges you to make you realize you don't even know. You say you want to find out what the depth of the self is. You don't even know where your little toe is. So he reminds you, and he brings in that devotional aspect, which is when he says, my body is my temple, and my asanas are my prayers. What a beautiful mindset to take you into the understanding of how to be a bhakti yogi while you're still doing hatha yoga. So he deflates your personality in a certain way, but in order to show you where the hidden crookeddities of your body are, where the dark spots are, the black holes in the body, and he invites you to arise by practicing. And although he may seem to be a fanatic when he's practicing, he's not really aggressive, he's intensive. That's a really nice way to look at the two different aspects of pushing yourself in the wrong way and really focusing in an ekagrata, one-pointed way. Another beautiful thing that he makes clear is that ahimsa is the first principle of non-violence. And yet you might think like, well, by going that far in your body, you're doing violence. But then he reminds you that tapas, which is the third niyama and the first part of the definition of Kriya Yoga, tapas, swadhyaya, and ishvara pranidan, tapas is not a yama. It is not something you're supposed to abstain from. It is a niyama. It is something you're supposed to sustain yourself with. So tapas is putting the pedal to the metal and not confusing that with nonviolence. Of course, you don't let your aggression, your ignorance push you into pain. That's stupidity. That's not yoga. Injury only comes from aggressive movements, not from yogic movements. So he takes you into the physical body, the physiological body, the inner tissue, the psychological body, the mental sheaths. And of course, he wants you to reach the core of your being, which would be the Atman, the spiritual aspect of yourself. And it doesn't matter whether you practice, according to the Yoga Sutras, it's not only some kind of rarefied image in a religious sense. It says in the sutras, any object can be a suitable one for concentrating your mind and bringing it to one-pointedness. He just happened to choose asana to show you how the whole path is there. So there's clarity in what he teaches, there's precision in what he teaches, and of course there's freedom in what he teaches. And if you want to bring light into the dark, which is what the guru principle is supposed to do, right? It dispels the darkness and illuminates it through your experience and not just through the concepts and the words, which are fantastic in and of themselves, but it's the practice itself that leads to maturity. And also not just doing the practice, but extricating from the practice. What did you get from it? What's the lesson you take? He called that satmika yana. So it's like squeezing the essence out, so you really strain out the stuff that's not important and you stay with the stuff that's really the real stuff. How to see the seer, S-E-E-R, the seer. Who is the one that witnesses this? Who is the one that looks at this? Who is the one that recognizes this? And that's the part of the living spirit that's supposed to discover its own nature through the practice of yoga. So that's a kind of paradox, like the material plane in some way puts you in bondage, but also provides the means by which you can escape. And of course, the whole idea is to realize that in some way you're in prison. And you have to inquire, is there any way out of prison? Has anybody escaped from the prison? And if they have they left clues for us inmates to be able to do the same as them? And so, in a certain way, I'm practicing more and more than ever before, but not just hitting the mat. My whole life is integrated into a certain kind of practice. Right? Every action I do is impelled by motives of sacrifice and service. Right? And then I reflect on the actions, and I see how did it impact the people who I shared whatever I did with? How did it impact me psychologically? And then, was my heart involved in it? I'm not just doing stuff. I'm trying to bring joy. I'm trying to bring positive emotion. I'm trying to bring connection. So there's bhakti, jnana, and karma all together in everything I do in my life. And of course, that's the goal of yoga, to be an integrated person and allow your unique way of experiencing spirit in an embodied form to come through. And so to that extent, I'm more in touch with what I would call cosmic energy. Is a kind of strange thing, because the cosmos is a pretty big thing, but we bandy that term about. But I'm certainly more in touch with energy that's not limited to myself, and I don't only mean like interceding for other people, petitioning on their behalf when I pray, but I would say it's more like I feel the vibe of us all, not at just a community level, but in a visionary way, in a planetary level. And from being with Mr. Iyengar, when he says, my body is ringing and singing yoga, naturally when you're around me, you feel the bell of yoga tolling its presence. And that makes me say, listen, should I go home right now? I don't need to listen to you and practice more. So naturally, I do that, and naturally it teaches you. Automatically, it teaches you. And I hope you will all realize the power that that gives you. By the way, another pitch to my friends out there, I'm always looking for help in my yoga practice. My body is functioning under some limitation, and I love to have apprentices and assistants. Even if you don't know anything about how to teach yoga, I will guide you. Please contact me, and hopefully you can come and come to the studio in my house and help me. I would really appreciate that. And more pitches, shameless marketing, you know that's what I say. Go to the website, GabrielHalpern.com, and look up our Mexico vacation coming in the end of February and the early part of March. Peace.